Okay. So what was that we were doing yesterday? I told you that I told you moles is all about ratios. It's you count atoms and molecules, etc., everything in moles. So the equation I told you gives you the ratio in which things are going to. It's like a recipe that the ratio in which things will react, and the products are going to be produced. And you are not going to have one Al2O3. You might have a different quantity. You might have two Al2O3s, or you might have five Al2O3s. But the ratio in which they react, this is the simplest ratio, that if you had one Al2O3, there's going to be 6 HCl's reacting with it, producing 2 LCl3s and 3 water molecules. So the equation coefficients, they provide you the ratio in which you should mix things up and in which the products are going to be produced. So we did this yesterday, and I told you that like if I have 0.8 moles of this thing, so if I have 0.8 moles of this thing, how much HCl would I require? Now that's simple ratios. It's 1 reacts with 6. So 0.8 will react with X. Take out your calculator. I'll just do one more question. And you're going to cross multiply, and X will come out to be what? It's going to come out to be 0.8 multiplied by
4.8.
4.8, right? और इसका shortcut क्या बताया था? I told you the shortcut is, instead of actually writing all of this, you could just do 0.8 divided by 1 into 6. That's it. Okay, so the shortcut is these moles will be 0.8 divided by 1, which is the same thing, and into 6, which comes out to be 4.8 moles. If I want to find the moles of this thing, I can take 0.8 divided by 1 and multiply by 2. I mean, that's the same ratio, but it's just a quicker way of doing this. 0.8 divided by 1 into 2. So this one would be 0.8 divided by 1 times 2, which I think will come out to be 1.6 moles. And if I want to find this one, I can again use 0.8 divided by 1 times 3. So I can take 0.8 divided by 1 and times 3. I could have even used these moles. I could have taken 1.6 divided by 2 into 3. That would give me the same thing, exactly the same thing. I mean, so I told you that you could compare any two ratios. So if I know that this is 1.6 moles, then this would be 1.6 divided by 2 times 3. And that 1.6 divided by 2 times 3 would actually give me the exact, I mean, these two would give me the exact same quantity, which is, this will give me 2.4 and that will also give me 2.4. So both of them will give me the exact value. So you can compare any two ratios. It's ठीक है, तो ये clear है last वाला. Is this all clear? This one.
Yeah, yes.
So we had moved on to this part. The question was, how did I know that I had 0.8 moles? So we started talking about formulas, and specifically I talked about like how do you count moles? Because the quantity is so big that and this is, we did the first formula, which was moles equal to mass divided by the molar mass. Okay, that was, how do you figure out moles? Moles is mass divided by the MR. Okay, एक second. That's a mass divided by AR, or that's known as the MR, or the molar mass. And the logic behind that was, I gave the logic of like, if you have something that's in a huge quantity. Okay, so if there's a truck that's full of oranges, I gave you that example. So if you've got a truck that's full, it's got lots and lots of oranges. So it's completely pointless to actually count them one by one. It's going to take a very long time. The easier method is, you take the total mass of all the oranges in the truck, you weigh them, and then you divide them with the mass of just one orange. And you divide it by the average mass of one orange. So total mass of all oranges, and that gets divided by the mass of one orange. So if you have 6,000 kg of oranges in total, and one orange approximately weighs, let's say, 1 kg, then the math is pretty simple. It's you got 6,000 oranges, right? If one orange had weighed the average mass of one orange, let's say it's a very big orange. So if the average mass of one orange was 2 kgs, then you had how many oranges? You're going to have 3,000 oranges, right? So that's how you count things. Count things which are in large quantity. You can't count them one by one, because you have to create a different method in which can be helpful in counting things which are in very large quantity. So, and that's exactly how you count atoms. You take the total mass of all the atoms, like let's say these are all sodium atoms. So you're gonna take the total mass of all the atoms, and तो अब assume करते हैं कि these are sodium atoms, right? So let's assume you've got a beaker that's got lots and lots of sodium atoms. Impossible to count all of them. The whole container weighs, let's say, I mean, this beaker weighs 100 grams, right? So that's the total mass. And this is known as the molar mass. This is the mass of 1 mole of sodium atoms. So it's the mass of 1 mole of atoms, or, I mean, you could have molecules or compounds as well. So that's known as the molar mass. Where do you get this molar mass? So somebody has done, scientists have actually done this. They've actually calculated the mass of 1 mole of atoms very precisely, and that's given in the periodic table. So that's the relative atomic mass expressed in grams. Okay, so this is how you find the mass of sodium atoms. Like people know what the average mass of an orange is. So scientists have actually measured the mass of sodium atoms. And for this, all you have to do is you have to open a periodic table. So if I open the periodic table, let's open this one. So in the periodic table, the bigger number, जो बड़ा वाला है ना, that's the atomic mass. I mean, it's given over here. It's the bottom one is the proton number. You've got a key over here as well. So that's atomic mass. Boron has an atomic mass of 11. Sodium has, remember, the bigger number is the atomic mass. Sodium over here has an atomic mass of 23. So क्या होगा इसका answer? If I've got 100 grams of sodium atoms, how many moles do I have? All I have to do is I just have to plug in the formula, which is, so I've got 100 grams. So I've got 100 grams of sodium, and the sodium has a molar mass of 23. So all I need to do is I need to find moles. So it's going to be mass, and the mass, the moles क्या होंगे? Moles is mass, which is 100 grams, and that's going to be divided by 23. So how many moles do I have? It's going to be क्या होगा? What's the answer to this?
$4.347.
You sure it's 4.347? It's
Yeah.
So it's 4.34. I'm going to write it as 4.35. I'm going to round it off till on the third one. So 4.347 moles. Sorry, it's still hanging up. Just a second. I think it's working. As a 4.35 moles. So you can find, and let me highlight. You can find So this over here, so now this over here is the molar mass of sodium, or we can say the AR of sodium atoms. The A stands for atoms, and the M. I mean, if you have, I use two terms. I wrote AR or MR. A stands for atoms. If you just have atoms over here. If you have molecules, that's going to be, you're going to call it MR. And the top one is the total mass. You get this over here as the this over here is the total mass. And you can find out moles if you know the mass. Remember, it's very easy to know the mass. You can just weigh it. Like if you have any other metal, let's say you've got iron, zinc, let's say you've got a piece of zinc. Zinc would kind of look like this. It's going to be silverish, shiny metallic substance. Let's say you've got this chunk of zinc over here, right? So how do I figure out how many moles I've got? I'm going to take the total mass. I'm going to divide it by the molar mass of zinc. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So let's say I've got 30 grams of zinc. So I want to know how many moles I've got. So 30 grams of zinc metal, or the atoms of zinc. So moles will be the total mass, which is 30 grams, and it's going to get divided by what the ER of zinc, which is over here. It's given as 65. Remember, the bigger number is the mass. Okay, so it's 65. So क्या बना इसका?
0.461.
So this one is 0.461 moles. And so you need the periodic table for this, because scientists have accurately calculated the mass of 1 mole of all these substances. Bromine is 80. Some of them are heavy, some of them are light. Okay, just like normal things. Like if you're dealing with fruits, some fruits are light, some fruits are heavy. Or make sure you get the idea that like if you had a truck that's full of oranges. Now, if you had a truck that's full of grapes, now grape is much smaller in size, so you can pack more of them. The quantity of grapes will be a lot more compared to oranges. If you have the big one, that's watermelons. If you have a truck that's full of watermelons, there's going to be fewer of them because they're heavier, they're bigger in size, so they're going to be fewer of them. So the thing is, okay, so atoms, just like fruits, some of them are small, some of them are bigger in size. Okay, the top ones are usually smaller. Hydrogen is one of the smallest. That's one of the lightest. I said, now you've got molecules as well. So what do you do with molecules? So let's say you've got 50 grams of copper sulfate. Okay, that's copper 2 plus, and SO4 is 2 minus. You've got 50 grams of this thing. So in this case, how would you calculate the moles? In this case, moles will be the total mass, which is 50 grams, but that's going to be divided by the molar mass. Now, for a molecule or for a compound that's got copper, sulfur, and oxygen, you would have to add up all of them. Okay, that's known as the MR. How do you calculate MR? You sum them all up. Okay, that's how you calculate MR. So this entire thing, copper sulfate, I'm going to try and figure out the MR of this thing. So in the periodic table, copper is 63.5, sulfur over here is 32, and oxygen over here is 16. So I think it was 65.4. Let me just, no, 63.5.
0.5.
Sorry,
It's 32.
This one was 63.5, I guess. Let me just double check this. The first one, copper. Copper was 63.5 over here. अच्छा फिर अगला क्या? That's sulfur. That sulfur is 32. So remember, your periodic table will be given to you. It's going to be with you in the exam. So you've got 32, and then you've got oxygen. There are 4 of them. Oxygen was 16, and that's 4 of them. So that's 16 times. So that's
4.
16 times 4. So that's how you calculate the molar mass. That's how you calculate the MR. So how many moles do you get for this?
159.5. Oh, in total 0.313.
0.313.
313.
So we're getting 0.313 moles. Okay. So is this clear? That you're going to have MR and for any molecule, and there's going to be complicated molecules. Like make sure you don't make a mistake when you're calculating MRs. Okay, I've got let's say I've got 200 grams of ammonium phosphate. Now ammonium is NH4 and it's +1, and phosphate is PO4 and it's -3. So if I do crisscross, it's going to be 3 ammoniums, right? That's what the formula. That's what the formula is going to be. So I'm going to get 3. I'm going to have 3 ammoniums. I say now this one. Make sure calculate the MR correctly. Now, if I try to do this, it's going to be moles for this one would be equal to the total mass, which is 200. And then it gets divided by the molar mass. So NH4 कितने हैं? That's 3 NH4s. You got 3 NH4s over here. So NH4, that's N is 14, H is 1, and it's NH4, so that's 4 H's, right? So NH4 will be, I mean, just the thing in the bracket, that's going to be 14 plus there are 4 hydrogens, so that's 1 into 4. And there are 3 NH4, so that's thrice. Plus there's PO4. P is 31, and oxygen is 16, and that's O4, so that's 16 times 4. So that is the total. So that is the total MR. Okay, NH4 3 times. There are 3 NH4s. Plus phosphorus is 31. Let me just double check. Phosphorus is 31. That's over here. Take this one. Phosphorus is 31. How many moles do we get for this?
$100. 1.34.
नीचे क्या आया था वैसे नंबर क्या आया था? What did you get?
149.
So you got
109.
16 into 4 that's 64 plus 31, that's 95. 95 and 18 into 3, that's 149.
141. Wait, I'll do it again.
18 into 3, that's 54.
Now I'm getting 141. It's 141.
It's going to be 149. It's going to be 149.
Okay.
Check kar lo. I think it's going to be 149. It's 16 into 4 is 64 plus 31, that's 95. And this is 18. 4 into 1, that's 4 plus 14, that's 18. 18 into 3 is 54. 54 and 95 over here, that's going to get added up to 149. That's No, did you try this one?
Yeah, it is 149.
Okay. Acha, so Had, is this clear? Nosheva, Urwa, Zaria, is this clear? Where's it? What did you get at the end?
1.34.
So we're getting 1.34. So we're getting 1.34 moles. So you've got all these formulas, and remember the formula is it works both ways. I mean, if you're given the mass, you can find moles, but if you're given the moles, you can also find mass. So it can work the opposite way as well. That remember all formulas. If you talk about any formulas, I mean, moles is equal to mass divided by AR or MR. You know, any two things, the third thing can be found out. Okay, so if you know the mass and if you know the moles, you can find out the MR of the substance. If you know the MR and AR or MR and you know the moles, you can find out mass. So remember, all formulas work this way. So any one quantity can be unknown and two of the things can be known, and you can work this out. So it's not only that you find moles using this formula, you can also find mass using this formula. So let's say we have another question and it's saying find the mass. Okay, so you're being asked to find the mass of number one, 40.5 moles of sodium oxide. So we have to find the mass of this thing. So what is the formula? It's moles, 40.5 moles. What is moles? Mass divided by the molar mass, by the MR. And I know the MR of sodium oxide. What is the MR of sodium oxide? That's sodium, 2 sodiums and 1 oxygen. So just open the periodic table. I've got sodium 23 and I've got oxygen, which is 16. So 2 sodiums and 1 oxygen. So 23 into 2. Plus 16. So what mass do we get for this? Did anyone try this one?
I'm doing.
So baki kya hai? Zaya, Urwa, Noor, Ahad, Abdullah, can you tell me the answer for this one? So you make sure you have your calculators with you. Has anyone done this one? Ayan, calculate kiya ye?
Yeah, I got it, but I'm not sure if it's correct.
What did you get?
2,511.
So this is 46 plus 16, that's 62, right?
Yes.
62 times 40.5. So that is going to give you what kya hai? Mass kya hai?
2,511.
2,506.
11.
Why do you get 1162? Okay.
I cross multiplied because the mass is unknown, right?
हाँ, तो ये basically उधर multiply हो जाएगा ना, this thing.
Yeah. That's what I did.
ठीक है. Are you sure it's exactly 2511?
I'll do it again.
मुझे बस 11 के ऊपर शक है, बाकी 22,500 that's fine. Calculator can
Yeah, it's 11. It's 1-1.
1 है ना, confirm है ना, ठीक है. So it's going to be 2,511 grams, right? As similarly over here, it's 0.0125 moles of aluminum nitrate. So we need to find the mass. So moles, 0.0125 moles is equal to what? Mass divided by the molar mass. The molar mass in this case would be aluminium and an NO3 thrice. That means 3 nitrates. Aluminium is, what is aluminium? That's 27. It's over here, and N over here is 14 and O is 16. So it's 1 aluminium, that's 27. So it's 27 plus NO3s. NO3 is 14 plus 16 times 3. That's NO3. And NO3 is thrice. I mean, it's being as NO3 is 3 times. Right? So 1 AL, you got NO3, that's this thing, N plus 16 into 3, and NO3 is thrice. So that times into 3. So what do we get for this?
$2.66.
Just 2.6 grams.
No, there's more numbers, but I deleted
Yeah,
it.
what's after this 6?
2.665.
2.5, right? As a TK. So it's going to be 2.66. Just round it off till the third significant figure. So, no, you're getting the same thing, right?
Yes, sir.
So the point is that you've got this formula, which is moles is equal to mass divided by AR. You just have to remember this. It's just, it should be on your fingertips. How do you find moles? You take the mass, divide by the molar mass. That's it. The logic behind it is exactly the same. You take this container full of oranges, you take the total mass, divide by the mass of one orange. So you do exactly the same for atoms. That's how you count atoms. Okay, just remember, मतलब इसको fix कर लो, ठीक है? It's moles is equal to mass divided by AR or MR. So when we were doing this last time, that's how you calculate moles. Now remember this, the equation deals in moles. And how do we find our moles? We've got one formula at least. We just did the first formula. So I'm going to do the same question, but now I won't give you the moles, I'll give you the mass. So the first thing is you'll try and find out what the moles are. So next, to abhi jo question karenge na, what I'll do is so it's going to be the exact same thing. But remember, the equation deals in moles. And I just told you how do you find out moles. So I've got this equation. It's let's say you got potassium oxide, and it reacts with phosphoric acid, H3PO4. So they've given you an equation, and it forms a what? It forms a Na3PO4 plus water molecules, not Na3PO4, sorry, K3PO4. So we've got this reaction in front of us, and I'm going to balance it. I'm going to balance the potassiums first. So 2 with this, and multiply this side with 3. The phosphoruses are twice over here. So I'm going to multiply this by 2. And the hydrogens are 6 on this side, so I'm going to multiply this by 3. So anyways, the ratio in which they're reacting is that 3 of this react with 2 of these, and they end up producing 2 of these and 3 of this. Okay, so that's the ratio in which things are getting produced and things are reacting. So that's your equation. Now, the question states, so the question is 50 grams of potassium oxide react. Completely. So they react completely. So he's saying find the mass of the products produced. So find the mass of products produced. So the first thing is, what's given over here? It says that you got 50 grams of potassium oxide. So can we know the moles? How many moles do we have? So I'm going to use the formula, which is what? It's I can find out moles. It's moles is the mass, 50 grams, divided by the molar mass of potassium oxide. So potassium oxide is K and O, right? It's K is 39 and O is 16 over here. So this is K over here, and you got oxygen on this side. So 39, that's K, and there are 2 of them, and there's 1 oxygen, so that's 16. So, but okay, how many moles do we get for this?
Zero 0.568.
0.5.
68.
So you're getting 0.56. So you're getting 0.568 moles, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you find the moles of. So we found the moles of potassium oxide. That's 0.568, right? So that's where we got that number. I found out that I've got 0.568 moles. Abhyakan, I just told you that, I mean, we did this previously. You know the moles of one substance, you can use ratios to figure out the moles of everything else. So how do you find it? How do you find the moles of phosphoric acid? 0.568 divided by 3 times 2. So the moles of, I mean, you can either use ratios, okay, 3 ratio 2, then 0.568 ratio x, cross multiply and find this thing out, or the shortcut is 0.568 divided by 3 by its own ratio, multiplied by the other ratio, which is 2. So if I want to find the moles of this potassium phosphate, 0.568 divided by 3 and multiplied by its ratio. So it's going to be divided by 3 and multiplied by the other ratio. If I want to find this one, it's going to be 0.568 divided by 3 into 3. That's going to be the same thing. That's in क्या values are here. What do you get for this?
Zero 0.379 for second one.
0.3?
79. I rounded it.
So you're getting 0.379 moles. Make sure you always write the unit. This is going to be 0.379 moles as well. I mean, it's the exact same calculation. And this is going to be the 3's get cancelled out. So this is 0.568 moles. But this one at the end. Anyway, so we found the moles, right? We actually found the moles of the first one by using the formula, and we found the moles of. So remember, the equation ratio is for moles. You know the moles of one substance, you can figure out the moles of all the other ones using ratios. Now, what did the question want? The question wanted you to calculate the mass of the products. So I know I've got 0.379 moles of potassium phosphate, right? I mean, this is something I know. So I'm being specifically asked to calculate the mass. So how do I calculate mass? I'm going to use the same formula, which is, I know the moles at 0.379. I don't know what the mass is. So moles is mass divided by MR. The MR of potassium phosphate, that's 3 potassiums, 1 phosphorus, 4 oxygens, right? So what is the MR of this thing? It's potassium is 39 in the periodic table. So that's 39 times 3. Phosphorus is 31. And there are four oxygens. So that's 16 times 4. So if I try and solve this, I'll figure out the mass of my product. So what do we get?
$80.348.
80.3.
48.
So you got 80.348 grams. So we found the mass of the product. There's another product as well, which is water over here. And I know the moles of this one as well. Okay, so that's water over here. So I'm going to use the same formula, which is it's 0.568 moles. Moles is mass. We don't know what the mass is. And the whole thing gets divided by the molar mass of water, which is 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. So 2 hydrogens, that's 2 times 1. And there's 1 oxygen, that's 16.
Sir, it will be 10.224.
Because you're getting 10.24 grams.
Sir, it is a double 2.
224?
Yes, sir.
This is a 10.224 grams. Anyway, so the whole point is, we did the first form. Remember, all moles questions are kind of going to be almost the same. All you have to do is you need to know the ratio. How does ratio work? I mean, it's basic ratios. You know the moles of one substance, you can figure out the moles of all the other substances in the equation. Okay, the equation deals in moles. 0.568 reacts with 0.379, 0.379, and 0.568 of this is produced. So we found out, how do we calculate moles? We found out one method, which is moles is equal to mass divided by AR or MR. That's one way of finding moles. Baki question wo it's just ratios. You find the moles of one substance. जो पहला हमने किया था, it's all of the questions are kind of exactly the same. You know the moles of one substance, you can figure out by using ratios, you can find out the moles of everything in the equation. Okay? So as long as you know the ratio in the equation, you can, if you know the moles of one thing, you can figure out the moles of all the other things. If somebody is asking you for mass, just apply the formula. Okay, 1.6 moles, you know that moles is equal to mass divided by AR/MR. So you can find mass using that. So we just did one formula which is used to calculate moles. And there are three main formulas which are used to calculate moles. So we're going to discuss the other two tomorrow then, okay? But ye clear hai?
Assalamualaikum, sir. Sir, can you give one example? Because I was late. I had problems with the internet. Can you give one example, please?
No, we just we were doing this part. I told you if you have a truck that's full of oranges, how do you measure? How do you count them? You take the total mass of all the oranges, and then you divide by the average mass of one orange, right? Okay.
Yes.
Agar total mass 6,000 kg and one orange weighs 2 kg, that means you've got 3,000 oranges, right? So based on the same idea of based on the same idea or same concept, you count atoms the same way. If you have a container that's full of sodium atoms are really tiny and they're in a huge quantity. You can't count them one by one. So you take the total mass and you divide by the mass of 1 mole of atoms. Okay, this mass of 1 mole of atoms is calculated in the periodic table. It's been accurately calculated, measured by scientists. They've been very accurate with it. And they've actually given you the values of this.
Sir,
Haji.
are these the subjects that are gonna come in our board exams? Are gonna appear in the board exams?
नहीं मोल्स में तो आएगा वो मैं आपसे डिस्कस करता हूँ ठीक है I did see your message. I just need some clarification on that. ठीक है
Okay.
उस पे मैं मैसेज करता हूँ
जी ठीक है
अच्छा तो mass तो बस ये Soeb, it's mass, total mass divided by the molar mass जो कि periodic table में given है. So if I've got 100 grams of sodium, that's 23. So its total mass is 100 grams. The molar mass is 23. That's the atomic mass that's given in the periodic table. So I'll know how many moles I've got. Okay? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
If I've got 30 grams of zinc, I'll know how many moles I've got. That I've got 30 grams of zinc. The mass of 1 mole is, so the periodic table where the mass of 1 mole is given. It's always given. So all of these masses are the mass of 1 mole of substance. So sulfur is 32, right? So I know that 32 grams of sulfur is basically 1 mole of sulfur. Like 1 mole of sulfur, if I've got 1 mole of sulfur, so uski jo total mass hogi, that's going to be 32 grams, right? So if I've got 2 moles of sulfur, it's going to be 64 grams. If I've got 0.5 moles of sulfur, it's going to be 16 grams, right? So this formula is kind of like this. It's 30 grams, you know the mass of 1 mole, so you just divide them and you'll get the number of moles you've got. Okay? If I've got 64 grams, I'm going to divide the 64 mass by the molar mass, which is 32. Then I'll know I've got 2 moles, right? So the formula is simply this, that it gives you how many moles you've got if you know the mass. So baki wahi tha, the whole question was, jo hum kal kar rahe the, ke how do you find out the moles? Because the rest of the question is the same. You know the moles of one substance, you can figure out the moles of all the other substances. So how do you know the first moles? Yahan pe diya hua question mein 50 grams of K2O. So you can find the moles. It's going to be 50 divided by the molar mass of potassium oxide, which is potassium is 39. That's 39 times 2 plus there's oxygen, which is in the periodic table 16. So aapko pata lag jata hai you've got 0.568 moles. और अगर आपको एक का मोल पता लग गया ना, you can just use ratios. 0.568 divided by 3 into 2, you'll get these moles. इसके निकालने तो 0.568 divided by 3 into 2, you'll get these moles. इसके निकालने 0.568 divided by 3 into 3, you'll find these moles, right? So clear. So it's a continuation of what we did yesterday. It's equation जो है ना, that deals with ratios. But you need to know the moles of one substance. And I just told you how do you find out the moles of any one substance. ठीक है? Clear?
Yes, sir.
चलो ठीक है, इसकी रिकॉर्डिंग अपलोड होती है, मैं फिर शेयर कर देता हूँ, ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
चलो. Okay, everyone.
Allah Hafiz.
Hafiz.
Allah
Allah
Hafiz, sir.
Hafiz.